Hello and welcome to the Happy Insights podcast. My name is Happy Ali. I am your host, and today I'm excited to have a wonderful guest on the show. Her name is Poonam Bhuchar. She is an attorney and the author of Safe from Pain. Her book is amazing because it teaches techniques on how to push through the pain and the trauma and come out to the other side or on the other side, someone better, stronger, and ready to live life empowered. So welcome to the show, Poonam. Welcome.
Thank you, Happy, and thank you for having me. So excited to be on.
Well, let's jump right in today and just start with your story and your journey. You experienced your own personal emotional trauma that ultimately led you to write this book. Can you share with the audience your story and what prompted you to write this book?
Sure, Happy. I'm just going to give a brief synopsis of various things that I've been through and the reasons for writing the book. I was sexually assaulted when I was 13 years old. And back then, it was not something that you discuss openly in the South Asian culture. Even though I came from a very supportive family, I don't think that I realized the shame and the lack of self-worth that led me to carry throughout my life. So the pain became very overwhelming at a point that I attempted to commit suicide in my mid-teen years. From there, I went to a couple therapy sessions, but never really dealt with the shame and lack of self-worth that I was carrying, which led me to have an arranged marriage, not because my parents held a gun to me, but because I thought nobody would marry me and this is the only way to get married, and fulfill the South Asian culture responsibility. I went into getting married knowing that I shouldn't, and knowing that the person that I'm marrying just didn't feel right. And even the day of my marriage, I knew I shouldn't have gotten married, and the person that I was with was not the right person for me. Out of that, I stayed there for 13 years, and I probably, for a multitude of reasons, should have gotten out within the first 6 months of the marriage, but didn't. But came out of it 2 beautiful children. I therein, instead of dealing with the pain of getting divorced and finally walking out of that marriage, I had what I call the Indian Kim Kardashian wedding that lasted a relationship that I probably shouldn't have gotten married to again, got married, and basically it lasted less than 3 months, moved on, and literally because of everything that I was going through was making a multitude of wrong decisions. Lost my house, lost my business, had to start from scratch again back in 2012 and 2010, I'm sorry. And in 2012 was literally brought to my knees because I was on this hamster wheel in denial of everything that I was going through, not dealing with the emotional trauma. And finally was literally brought to my knees due to health issues and needed to listen to what was going on inside of me. And I was paralyzed for a number of days, 10 days. I've had a multitude of health issues, strokes, and just because I wasn't ready to deal with the emotional pain that was in front of me. So what led me to writing this book is when I had what I call my road to awakening back in 2012, I kept asking the question that there has to be more to life. This is not why I was put on this earth. It's not all doom and gloom. And I need to figure out how life is supposed to work. And ultimately, I have done that. I have come out on the other end. I lead a successful law firm. I have written a book because I don't want anyone to feel the way I did. And I describe my book as a movie. It may resonate with some people and it may not with others, but if I can help that one person to stop feeling the way that I did, or to help them get through that emotional trauma and come out on the other side and realize that life is a gift. It really is a beautiful gift that we're supposed to enjoy. And things do happen in life, but that's what this journey is. And the reason for writing the book was truly just to help anybody to stop feeling the way that they did. And people that have read the book have validated that for me and come out and said that, you've started conversations in our house that we didn't have for many years, or thank you for validating the way that I feel. And that was primarily the reason that I wrote this.
So I have a lot of guests on my show that have a similar backstory. They've written a very similar book. But what I love about your book is how simple it is. You have SAFE as acronym for the 4 steps to healing, basically. And that's what made me really want to have you on this show, because I thought, well, some people might go buy your book, which is out now, and some people might not. But wouldn't it be wonderful if I had a person on the show that could give us the quick version of their steps to healing? So I want you to just jump straight into what the SAFE method is, and then we'll talk more about when to use it and when it's appropriate for who.
Sure.
So can you tell me what SAFE means, or what the SAFE method means?
So SAFE came from the need to feel emotionally safe. A lot of us don't realize that we don't feel emotionally safe. That's why we carry insecurities. That's why we're angry. That's why some of us are addicted to things. Or we feel suicidal because we just don't feel emotionally safe. And SAFE seemed to me like the perfect acronym for the process to come out, or at least start to process emotional trauma. So the S is stop and accept that you're in pain. The A is accept responsibility for where you are. F, I talk about 3 different types of forgiveness. Forgiveness of the people that you perceive to have hurt you. Forgiveness of the universe. And the most difficult one, forgiveness of yourself. And the E is embrace your journey, embrace your flaws, embrace everything about you so that you become whole. And that's when I believe you truly manifest the things that you want in life. If you want, I can go through each of them in more detail.
I would love that. So can you talk about stop? When do you stop? How do you recognize it's time to stop?
Well, I didn't, right? Until I was literally brought to my knees. And I think if we really think about it, the universe sends us all different signs to show us that we're in pain. But it's much easier to continue on this hamster wheel. I kept myself so busy that I didn't even have time to think. I would go to work, I would work crazy hours, I would work till 2 a.m. I would get up and take care of my kids and start that whole thing again. I was out partying with friends, even when I was married, so I just wouldn't have to think about anything that I was feeling inside of me. And for me, it became that my emotional pain took on physical manifestations. But I think
Which it always does, by the way. I have to cut you off. Anytime you ignore any kind of emotional pain, expect it to become a physical manifestation. That's much harder to get rid of than if you would have stopped it when it was just an emotion. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had to stop there.
I couldn't agree with you more, because getting through the physical part and the emotional part, it just becomes compounded. So I couldn't agree with you more. So I think the stop is listen to your gut. Listen when something isn't right. I didn't listen when I wasn't supposed to get married. I didn't listen to a multitude of things that didn't feel right, because it was easier not to listen and just continue with life. And I think the stop is stop and accept that you're in pain. It doesn't have to be a major traumatic event. It could be as simple as somebody pissed me off today and I'm just not feeling okay. Or I've had a fight with my partner, or I'm upset at something that's happened in my family or at work. Instead of shrugging it and disassociating yourself from that pain, which most of us do, face it head on, sit down and sit with your feelings and say, I've literally a multitude of times sat there and said, you know what? I'm behaving this way. I'm angry, or I'm behaving this way because I'm in pain, and I accept that I'm in pain. And there is something so empowering about that, because you've stopped, you take a breath and say, it's okay to say that I'm in pain. We say it all the time, whether we've got back pain, we've broken our arm, we're ready to say those things. But why do we feel the shame in saying it about emotional pain? And I think that is the most important step, to say, I stop and I accept that I'm in pain.
I think a lot of people in different cultures, or also in different roles, like leadership roles, or just being a mother or a father or a parent or someone that people look up to, have a really hard time saying that they're in pain because they don't want to come across as they're weak. But I think a big lesson is sometimes it's important to stop and tell yourself that, because we tend to stop and drink, we tend to stop and numb, but we never say, hey, I'm in pain, and that's okay. So I wanted to kind of share that, because I know for myself, I am someone that people look up to, not just my immediate family, but also my audience and the people that I inspire in the world. And sometimes when I'm in pain, or I feel like I don't have enough strength to live, and yes, that happens to me, even though I'm a happiness coach, I am someone whose name is Happy. I find it okay to just get in bed, go under the covers, and say, today sucks. I'm not coming out until I feel better.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think in someone in your position, it needs to show that it's okay to be vulnerable, whether it's to your clients or whether it's to our children, whatever it may be. But I think otherwise you continue this generational cycle of not being able to accept vulnerability.
Thank you so much. So let's move on to the A.
A is accept responsibility for where you are. Now, that doesn't mean that we're to blame for every situation that happens in our life, but it does mean that we are where we are in life because we have some responsibility for the decisions we've made. So, for instance, for me, it could be, and I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash about this, but I hold true to this. For me, it could be, I stayed in a marriage longer than I should have. And the first year, that's fine. The second year, but 13 years on, I refused to make a decision that I should have. And that is on me. And it doesn't mean I was to blame for everything that happened there. It just means I need to accept the role and the part that I played in it. Likewise, through the decades of my life that I didn't accept that I was in emotional pain, I didn't do what it needed to take care of myself. And therefore, I came from a platform of making wrong decisions. I accepted a position as a partner in a law firm out of ego, not because it was the right thing for me to do. And that was gonna fail. These are the decisions I have made. And I think, I should have won a bloody Oscar, I should have won an Oscar for.
Bloody's not bad for most of my audience. They're American.
Okay,
They don't know what the heck that means.
I should have won an Oscar for playing the victim role. I was fantastic at it. It was, my life's so shitty because this happened and that happened, and I can behave this way because I'm angry, and you guys just need to accept I'm angry because this has all happened in my life. Playing the victim is comfortable, and you don't have to do anything but blame the rest of the world. But accepting responsibility for where you are is difficult, but empowering, because once you've accepted your role in where you are today, it allows you to make a difference. You have no other thing to do except make a change in your life. And there is something so empowering about that. And that's what I mean by just accepting, whether you took a 1% role or a 10% role or 100% role in where you are in life today.
I want to ask you a question. I know a lot of people that are in victim mode because life is terrible or so many things are happening to them, and they are being so strong and pushing through whatever's happening to them. Don't consider themselves a victim because they say, oh no, I'm not a victim because look, all this bad stuff's happening to me and I'm still pushing through. Now, they're not healing. They're not choosing a different route. They're not choosing to take responsibility for everything that's happening to them and making a difference. They're choosing to get stronger and stronger and stronger and muscle through all the bad stuff that's happening, which is still to me being a victim because you're a victim of circumstance. What do you say to those people? And first of all, do you agree with what I'm saying? Are they still a victim, even though they're being so strong and muscling through?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I say that they haven't come to the first step, which is stop and accept I'm in pain. They're just muscling through life, and the idea of being strong is not just getting through something. The idea of being strong is being physically and mentally strong too. And they are victims of their circumstances, and just continuing through life and thinking that being strong is dealing with it. But I think you used the correct word. They're not healing.
And another thing that I have to say is that a lot of people don't feel like they're a victim because they're choosing to take care of their children by being in this marriage, or they're choosing to provide for other people by being in that particular circumstance, which makes them feel like they're not a victim because they are choosing to stand tall and protect their young and all this stuff. So I have a problem with that because I still think they are being a victim because they are not seeing the other side. Okay, so now you're creating this environment that's not really necessarily healthy for your children, but you're also meeting the status quo, which means that if you tough it out and stay, for example, with a father or stay in this job, that you are being super strong, but at the same time, you're affecting the children's psyche or your employees' psyche or the morale at the job that you are, leading. So I think it's really important to understand that that whole saying of putting the oxygen mask on first before you put it on other people, it's so powerful. And that's when you accept responsibility. Where are you not putting on the oxygen mask on first
Well,
because you're so busy caring about other people?
well, happy. Yes. I mean, I always ask myself, why did I leave for my kids? Why was I not enough to leave? Right. And in doing family law, I've seen plenty of people who stay in the marriages till their kids grow, and they're saying, I'm here to take care of the kids and make sure that they're in this family. But to your point, the kids are affected because they're raised in a conflicted environment. And not only that, but somewhere along the line, that parent has resentment when those children leave. That parent has resentment that I stayed in this marriage for you, and the kids have gone, and all of a sudden it becomes resentful because they haven't healed and they haven't dealt with the issues that they wanted to. And I always now say to women or men in those situations, because I ask myself the same question, why did I do it for my kids? Why was I not enough to do it?
Sometimes some people do it because they want to come across strong to all the people who have beat them down in their entire lifetime. There's so many people who feel like everybody and the entire world has been against them or against their marriage or against their job or against their career path, that now they feel obligated to stay because now they don't want the rest of the world to think that they are failures and that they made the right choice or the wrong choice. So I think there's a lot of different reasons, and I don't want to cover all of them, but I think that's when it comes to the next step, which is the F, because I love saying the F, the F, because there's a lot of power in what you're about to talk about when it comes to forgiving the external world, the internal world, and of course, the super external world, universe. So
Yeah.
can we get on to that?
So F, the three types of forgiveness. First one is forgive the people that you perceive have hurt you. And I use the word you perceive because the person that you think has hurt you may not even realize it. They may not even think they've hurt you, but you feel hurt for whatever the reason is. And rather than hold on to that and imprison yourself in your thoughts and play the movie backwards all the time, I try my best to forgive the person for very selfish reasons. I don't want to waste any more time sitting in trauma, sitting in my thoughts from the past. I want to move forward. And the only way I can do that is if I work on forgiving the person that I perceive has hurt me, because I don't want to be captive in those thoughts anymore. And I used to wait for some kind of an apology from people. I used to want, somebody's going to walk in the door and apologize to me for everything wrong that they've done in my life. It's never going to happen. It may do in rare situations. But I think when you get to that point of forgiving the other person, you just release it. You don't sit with it. You just move forward. It allows you to liberate yourself from these thoughts and move forward. The second type of F is forgiveness of the universe. I was fantastic at this. The universe has dealt me such a shitty group of cards, and why does this always happen to me? And, why didn't this happen to anybody else? Why am I the one going through this? Just inherent in that as a human being is something so extremely selfish. Why would I want my fellow human being to go through something that I've been through? If it was dealt to me on my plate, perhaps the universe thought I could deal with it. Or perhaps it's a lesson that I need to learn, or perhaps I didn't appreciate something in my life at that time. And this is the way that I do it now. And I think, we need to start accepting we're not all given the same set of cards. There are people who have worse, there are people who have better, but these set of cards are ours. And I feel, versus seeing the universe as against me, the minute you start seeing it as being part of your world and being part of your team, gives me an immense amount of satisfaction and a safety net that I always go to now. Okay, I don't get this, but the universe has got it. And if I don't get something, or I don't achieve something, or I don't get something I want, it's because I was protected in some way, or there was something better out there for me. And I think forgiveness of the universe and accepting it as part of your team and part of a whole really just shifts the mindset completely. The third type of forgiveness I talk about, which I found the hardest, is forgiveness of oneself. We have so much negative talk in our head about, we should have done this, we could have done this, or we don't do this correctly, or we don't do that correctly. That negative chatter just breeds negativity. And we think of all the reasons we could have done something better. I've done it in every aspect of my life, be it work, be it my children, be it my marriages, be it my family, anything. And I think you have to accept that we learn from our mistakes and we grow with our mistakes. And this journey of life is a journey. It's not a destination, but it's a journey. And with each particular episode of our life, if we learn the things that we're supposed to, I really do think that we become more confident within ourselves, and we learn to be very comfortable with who we are. And forgiveness of oneself is the most important, because only then can you learn to forgive other people.
Thank you so much for that. Now let's move on to embrace, which is the E.
E is, we're all great at accepting the accolades about ourselves, about how great we are. But how about we start accepting our flaws and start accepting our mistakes as part of the journey? And I truly do believe that once you embrace the good, the flaws, and the mistakes that we've made and the journey that we're on, That's when you're truly comfortable in your own skin, and that's when you know who you are, and that's when I believe you can manifest anything you want.
I love that. I'm going to add a different E, which is embrace all your emotions, allow yourself to feel the emotions and be okay feeling crappy so you
I
can
like
work through those emotions. That's my other E, because I feel like if you're okay with feeling the emotions and not dulling them with the pills that the doctor prescribed or the alcohol, then you really do embrace it all and you work through it. And when you end up on the other side, you feel a lot lighter and more incapable of taking on the rest of your journey on this planet. So, thank you so much for all of that. Now, I want to add one more thing to our conversation, which is a really big, important question that I have for you. And I would like to wrap up on that, which is, how do you encourage people to get mental help? Because I know so many people that are very quick to go to the doctor. And this is your own quote. I'm going to repeat it. You say, would you, wait, how do you say it? Are you willing to walk through life with a broken arm? Is that what you said? That's what you said,
something
right?
along those lines. Yeah, that's the gist of it.
So if you're not willing to walk through life with a broken arm, how are you willing to walk through life with a broken heart or broken mind, broken emotion? So that's something that you said in a previous conversation that we had. But
That's right.
something that I do want to talk about is, how do you encourage people to take the time to find a therapist? Because it is so hard to find a therapist, first of all, because it's one of the most difficult things you can do. Can you tell me how someone should get the strength or feel the importance of doing what they have to do to get
So
to the point where they find themselves a therapist, despite how it feels like it's impossible to find one?
I think so. For me, therapy was a hit and miss. It worked, it didn't work. I had to find what worked for me. But to feel like you need to get that mental health, whether it's spiritual help, whether it's mirror work, whether it's tapping work, whether it's therapy, whatever it may be, I always say to my family law clients or anybody that comes to me that it's not worth it. If you know that you feel misaligned, and if you really sit with yourself and know that there is something not okay with you, it will catch up with you. The way, Happy, you had said earlier about it always manifests physically. So rather than aggravate a situation, rather than make it worse, take the time to figure out what kind of mental health work works for you. It could be as simple as going for a walk and trying to just work through your feelings and then moving on to the next step and finding therapy, or some people, find it in their religion, various other things. But take the time to do it, because we ourselves are the pivot of everything else in our lives, our job, our children, our family, everything. And if we're not strong, the rest of it is going to crumble. I can promise you.
So I have a friend who, every time I suggest therapy, he says, well, I am doing something for myself. I'm going to go on a boat ride today. I am going to hang out with my child today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do more of watching movies today. And to him, that means getting mental help. And that's not true. That's just another uh,
Avoidance.
avoidance. Exactly. So, and I've been trying to convince this person for maybe 6 years now, as their mental health has declined, as life is getting worse, and it gets worse. And as soon as he starts distracting himself, it gets better. And then as soon as the distraction's gone, it gets worse, and it gets worse than before. And I keep saying, come on, find a therapist, put it on your priority list. Come on, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. And then another thing comes up and says, oh, well, look, I just started drawing, or I just started doing this. I'm doing this for myself, for my mental health. And I say, no, 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 no. Read a book, do this, go to at least read a book on mental health, go to a
Right.
therapist. Oh, they all suck. None of them know what I'm talking about. It's just all these excuses that I know that are excuses because it's so hard to face the inner demons or inner issues, because a part of you just wants to feel safe doing what you've been doing, hoping for a better result. Can you say anything to those people really quick, because we are out of time,
Sure.
or something
It's
you can express, some sort of a wisdom, and that would help?
avoidance and distractions is not dealing with mental health. Dealing with mental health to me is speaking your truth inside, looking inside of you and just being truthful about what you're feeling and processing those emotions. Distractions will catch up. Insecurities, anger, lack of self-worth all reflect themselves in our life in one shape or form. So you have to look, as you said, Happy, at the inner demons and what's going on inside. Distractions will not fix that.
And find someone who is impartial and doesn't know much about your life to do it with.
Absolutely.
And pay somebody so that their advice is more valued, because if you get free advice, usually it's not as valued as when you pay for someone. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Poonam.
Thank you for having me.
It was such a pleasure. I couldn't tell you how wonderful this was. Thank you. And please come back on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. Thank you.
And thank you for my audience for listening and watching. Please make sure to write a review, despite the fact that I know none of you write reviews. So I'm angry at you. No, it's my fault. I have to do something about that. But please write a review and let us know what you think. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day. Goodbye.